Okay, hi everyone. So this is your lesson on density, and the density problems on the regions used to be really kind of crazy, and they've definitely scaled them back quite a bit now because I think there were so many complaints about them, but we're going to prepare for anything. So first, what is density? Density is just a measure of how much mass is located within a specific volume of space. So if you're going to take notes, you can pause this at any time and take notes, or just continue. So lots of times when people think of density, they think of how big something is, but that would be incorrect. Because if you think of a large balloon, it could be big in size, but it weighs very little. Well, you could have just like a small gold bar, and that would have a high density. So we could think of like a really big feather. It could be really big in size, but it has a very low density. Okay, so, but I mean, for our purposes, we can kind of think of mass and weight as the same thing, but just want to clarify it's not the same thing. Because if whatever you weigh on Earth, if you went to the moon, you would weigh something different, but your mass would stay the same no matter what. But in terms of the regions, you can just kind of think of this mass and weight as the same thing. Okay, so this is the formula for density, and it's just mass over volume, and we write it as D equals M over V. And the way I always remember it is I think of the DMV, like the motor vehicles. So that's how you remember the order. Okay, and just a couple of things. So volume always goes on the bottom, and the way you could recognize volume in a problem is it will have cubic units. So it might say like inches cubed, and that's how you know that's the volume. And anything that has to do with weight, that would always go on the top as the mass. Okay. And just one little word of caution, they always try and trick you by mixing in inches and feet or miles and yards or something like that, so just always be really careful about the units. Okay, so we're going to look at this problem. I'm going to actually do two problems with you. So you're having your kitchen remodeled, and you can see there's a granite countertop here in the picture, and this top measures 5 feet by 8 feet by 1.2 inches. So right there, you should be wary because they're mixing in feet and inches. So before we move on in the question, just let's kind of take a look at what they're saying here. So let's say this is our granite top. Okay, so we're saying it's 5 feet by 8 feet. So this would be the 8 feet. This would be the 5 feet. And the height is 1.2 inches. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you screw up where these things go because you're going to end up just multiplying them anyway. Okay, so these are feet and these are inches. So the first thing you have to do is you have to convert everything to inches. So 8 feet converted to inches, you would multiply that by 12 and you would get 96 inches. So I'm going to just change this to 96 inches. And 5 feet, you multiply by 12 to get 60 inches. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have to make sure that everything is in the correct units. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. The density is 2.7, so let's write this down. The density is 2.7 grams centimeters cubed. Okay, so as soon as I see the word density, I'm going to think of my formula that density equals mass over volume. So the volume part is going to actually be pretty easy because we know that the volume of this countertop, which is just a rectangular block, the volume is just going to be length times width times height. So all we have to do is measure 96 inches by 60 inches by 1.2 inches. Okay, that will give us our volume. So if you multiply all that out, you will get 6480 inches cubed. Now we have a problem right away because if you look at the density, here's the density over here, that's in centimeters. So we have another problem. So we can't mix the centimeters with the inches. So since we know that the density is the 2.7, we'll put that in here. But now I have to get this number my volume into centimeters. So I'm going to rethink this. So I know you're thinking, why didn't you just do this to begin with? Because I want you to see all the kind of mistakes that students make all the time. Okay, so for example, you have 96 inches. I'm doing this right here. And I want to turn it into centimeters. So there is a reference sheet that you're going to be getting, and on that reference sheet, it's going to say that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So we have to take on 96 inches and multiply it by 2.54 in order to get how many centimeters there are. Okay, and when we do, we're going to get 243.84. Okay, so that means that this length right here is really 243.84. Okay, and then we're going to have to do this with all of the sides. Okay, so next I'm going to do my 60 inches. I'm going to multiply that by 2.54. And when I do, I'm going to get 152.4. So I'm going to change this right here to 152.4. And lastly, we have the 1.2. We're going to multiply that by 2.54. And that will give us 3.048. Let's take that out. We get 3.048. Okay, let's make some room. Okay, so now I'm going to do the volume again. And I'm going to do my volume in terms of centimeters. So I have length is width times height. Okay, and when you multiply that whole thing out, you get this big, crazy number. You get this. Okay, so that represents our volume, and I'm going to move that into our formula over here. Okay, and I'm just going to erase all this and make some room. Okay. Alright, so after I do that, then I'm going to just put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply, and I get that my mass, so I'm multiplying 2.7 times this 113,000 thing, and I'm going to get that my mass is 305,821.94 grams. Okay, so if you at least get that far, you will get a lot of credit on the regions. But the question actually says, how much does it weigh in pounds? Okay, so now we have to convert grams to pounds. So first of all, if you look at the reference sheet, it's going to say that 1 pound equals 0.454 kilograms. But we don't want kilograms, we want grams, and they don't give you a formula for grams. So in order to go from kilograms to grams, you have to take that 0.454 and you have to multiply it by 1,000. Okay, so when you multiply that by 1,000, you're going to get 454 grams. So what we're saying is that 1 pound equals 454 grams. Okay, so we know we had this, so we had 305,821.94 grams. We're going to divide that by this 454 to see how much that is in pounds. And when you do that, you're going to get 673.6 pounds, and that was the answer. And I just want to point out that you might be saying, well, who even cares about all this? But the reason why you wouldn't want to know something like this is if you look at the picture over here, here's the countertop, there's a base to this, right? And so what if you wanted to make sure that that base would be able to hold up whatever that mass is, right? So, you know, people have to do this all the time to make sure that something can withstand the weight of something else. Okay, so here is the second problem I'm going to go over. So whether or not you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's fine, you should understand this question. So there's a solid golden idol that's going to be replaced with a bag of sand. So this idol right now, so it says that the idol is a cylinder. So let's pretend this is a cylinder. I know, I'm a terrible artist. And that is sitting on a table. Okay, so here's our table. And what someone is trying to do is to take that idol away and replace it with a bag of sand really quickly, so that this way everything would appear to be the same. Okay? Alright, so we're supposed to be finding the mass right here of the idol in pounds. So let's not worry about the pounds right now, but as soon as I see the word mass, I'm going to start with density equals mass over volume. Okay? And so I guess the first thing we can do is we can find the volume of this cylinder. Okay, so what did they tell us about the cylinder? It has a height of 18 centimeters, and the radius is 6 centimeters. So this is great because we have the same measurements both in centimeters. Okay? So the volume for a cylinder, which would be on your reference sheet, is pi r squared h. So we're just going to substitute. And I'm going to get 648 pi centimeters cubed. So I'm going to replace my v with that amount. And we'll multiply out the pi later. Just not worried about that now. Okay, so I'm going to erase and make some room here. Okay, so in the story they're telling you that the density of the gold is 19.32. Also, we're seeing everything's matching in centimeters, but now we have grams, so we're going to write 19, well, I'll just put it up here to save some space. So 19.32, and these are grams. Okay, so we're just going to cross multiply, and we're going to get that the mass equals 12,519.36. We still have that pi right there. Okay? So now if you multiply by pi, you're going to get this really low number. Okay, now remember, this is in terms of grams now. Okay? So this is great. So that's what our mass is. But it's saying, what is it in pounds? Okay, so if you only got into grams, that's fine. You will still get partial credit. But if you want to get full credit, you have to convert this to pounds. So if you remember from the last problem, we said that 1 pound equals 454 grams. So since this is in grams, we're going to take this number Notice I'm not rounding too soon, and I'm dividing by 454 to see how many pounds this would be. And I will get 86.71 pounds. And that was the answer. Okay, so that finishes density, and then you're going to see a worksheet on PeoplePath, and you're going to fill that out and hand that in on Monday, and that's going to be counting as a test. Okay.